Hi, I'm Greg, and this is Mad Gear, the show that likes to introduce you to some of the strange, weird, and mad pieces of studio gear and practices for the modern day producer and engineer. And today's episode, I'm going to be talking about home keyboards. Yep, I did say home keyboards. You know, the ones with like the built-in rhythms that sound terrible and the built-in speakers that you would have seen at car boot sales, thrift stores, maybe the odd charity shop, or cash converters that you would have seen and literally turned your nose up and walked past and just ignored them, thinking they were rubbish. Well, today's episode is to prove that if you've thought that, you were wrong. I was wrong. And it's only now that I'm starting to kind of go, oh my God, there's some really, really good gems out there. So that is today's episode. So to kind of build a bit of a scene as to why I've decided to talk about this, when I was growing up in the early 80s, and my first introduction to synthesizers was through bands like this. So in this picture, you'll see that we've got the Pet Shop Boys, and they're just casually using a couple of Fairlights, a DX1 and an Emulator 2. Also was introduced to bands like Depeche Mode, and in this picture you'll see that one of them's got a PPG Wave and the other one's using a Roland. I don't know what model that is. Here's Kate Bush casually glancing at a Fairlight sampler, and I was a big fan of this gentleman here. This is Howard Jones playing a Jupiter 8. It would have been useful if he turned it on. So I was being introduced to this kind of sounds and these kind of instruments, synthesizers, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. So you'd go into school, but you'd be presented with this, where the biggest selling point is the fact it's got touch velocity responsive keys. I mean, if it had a pitch bend wheel, you were doing really, really well. So you heard that, but you were presented with this. And I don't know if anyone else remembers that you'd have probably 20 of these home keyboards all playing the demo tune all at different times, and pretty much drove everyone mad, including the teacher. So again, we saw this. There's a DX7 with Phil Collins, but in reality, you were presented with this. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. This is a Yamaha MK-100 Porter Sound keyboard from 1983. Now, the one I bought secondhand. I paid about 40 quid for it, which is probably about just under 50 bucks. It's never been used. I don't think it's been in its original case. It's absolutely pristine. And you might think, okay, why have I chosen this one? Well, here's an advert for you from 1983. Join a top band, the Yamaha MK-100. Quite a grandiose statement, but it did have Major from Ultravox used in some of the ad campaigns. This is a bit of an odd one. There is a company called Difficult Audio that actually have created a Native Instruments contact instrument from sampling this keyboard. So this kind of got me going, okay, why is this? And if you actually look at pretty much post 1984, a lot of the Yamaha Porter Sound keyboards were using FM synthesis. Now, this one doesn't. This one uses almost like a wave sample. I don't think it's digital. I think it's just, you can change the wave sounds, which we'll go into more detail in the episode in a minute. And also, you've got the ability to program drums and do a whole host of other stuff that was quite innovative at the time. By all accounts, with the variations on offer here, you could actually there were like over 1,300 different variations of the sounds, which is quite phenomenal for a piece of equipment now, but especially back then. And it has a sound all of its own. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. Let's get on with it. On first impressions, the Yamaha Porter Sound MK-100 is ticking all of the Mad Gear boxes because it's a kind of instrument I never thought I'd actually be using in the studio. But let me go through it and you'll see and hear why I think it's quite cool. So over here we have our orchestra section. So this gives you a choice of 12 instruments to choose from, typical of its time. So you've got like organ, trumpet, saxophone, piccolo, violin, music box, guitar, harpsichord, synth E1 and synth E2. We've also got a variety of 2 sustain settings to choose from. We have 12 preset patterns with a variation of up to 3 per pattern. You've got your usual guilty suspects. So we've got disco, bossa nova, rumba, slow rock, rock and roll. And I think the only 3/4 time signature pattern is a waltz. You've got a synchro start, start and a stop, and just like a LED metronome. We have our rhythm volume here. We have the other thing that's quite common on home keyboards is the auto bass chord accompaniment section. So you've got, I think, 3 variations of each. And over here we have our stereo symphonic section. Now this is applied globally. So if you're just playing an instrument, it'll be applied to that. But if you've got drums playing and auto bass accompaniment, it will be applied to that too. So we have a chorus and also a tremolo. We have a fill-in for your drum machine button down here, and then we've also got our transposer dial. So first of all, one of my favorite ones is the violin. So this is with no chorus, no sustain, nothing. This is just the raw sound. So there's a little bit of vibrato there, bit like a sawtooth, I guess. So another one that I like is the organ. So with the tremolo, I think it really adds some depth here. And if we add sustain 1, which is like a faux reverb. The reason I say a faux reverb is because this keyboard doesn't have any built-in effects other than the chorus and the tremolo. And then sustain 2 is more like a traditional sustain pedal. Another one that I like is the music box. I think that's really nice. Which is pretty cool. We've got our harpsichord here. Again, it works probably better with the sustain 2 on. And then the piccolo flute, I think, sounds really nice too. It's nice. So let's go back to the violin, and we're going to just not go into the multi-menu section quite yet. We're just going to work with the chorus and the sustain. Let's add some chorus. Now let's add some sustain 2 on this. So as you can hear, it's definitely adding something. The tremolo is quite nice, but it just sounds like a vibrato being played quite fast. So now you can see a closer view of the multi-menu. So this is like the waveform. So we're going to keep that as it is on preset. I'm going to keep the envelope in preset. And now this is where we can, it's called the melody mixer, and we can take one sound and add another one. So if we choose a violin, I'll turn the sustain off and the chorus off, it kind of creates a unison. Then add that with some sustain 2 and some chorus. We've got no pitch bend on this. It literally is that transpose, which is totally stepped, which is a shame. Now I'm going to bring in this pedal for the sound. I'm going to turn the multi-menu off, turn my chorus off, and turn the sustain off. So let's extend the length. At the moment, we're just using this reverb pedal and just keeping the settings as they are. Let's bring in the sustain 2 in, which I think overcooks it with this. By using this pedal, because it's got a pitch shifter on the reverb, we can really create some really nice sounds. So I'm just going to put this here, and I've changed it from the ultra plate, well, the plate, to the cathedra. And let's turn it off. I'll turn the sustain off too. Now bring it in. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So that you can use the pedal to basically shift it up an octave, down an octave, and do some other really weird stuff. So it's pretty bonkers, which is what I like. And obviously you can use this pedal with any of the sounds. No one's going to watch me go through every single sound on this video, so I'm just kind of picking the highlights. So now we're going to have a look at what this this pedal can do. Now, this keyboard doesn't have any kind of filters on it at all, but this pedal does. So I'm going to go back to my ultra plate and turn the pitch vector off. Now this is a resonant low pass filter. Now these pedals will respond to MIDI, which is great because it means you can record filter sweeps and changes and everything else like that. But this keyboard does not. Although it's 1983, which MIDI did come out. I think the DX7 was released that year, which had MIDI on it. If you're a great keyboardist, fantastic. You won't have the same issue that I have because I'm not a great keyboardist. So for me to be able to use this within a MIDI set, I would have to sample the sounds and then basically trigger them from a software sampler or a hardware sampler, hence why I will be sampling these sounds for my Patreon supporters. So I'm going to turn these pedals off and we're going to have a look at the multi-menu and now see some of the other settings that we can do to change the sound. So if we turn on the ability to change the settings here, you'll see first of all it says preset. Let's go down and turn the melody mixer off so we're not combining two sounds. Now if I go to custom, changing the envelope for the amplitude can change the tone far more than you'd actually think it would do. So for example, this is the preset wave amplitude envelope. But if I start to so you kind of got, so let's kind of set these to, snappy attack, short decay, and go back and change the sound. So you have a variation of waves. There isn't as much logic to it as you would like there to be. It is just kind of keep playing around until you find the sound that you like. Now coming to the Ottobit, I'm just going to get this to play a sequence because it has that functionality. And we'll just kind of have a go with this. And we can use that low pass filter. Let's get some, reduce the bit rate. We're going to have a look at the drum sounds and, more importantly, the drum patterns, because drum patterns were such an important part of home keyboards and most of them were terrible. I'm going to play the disco for you now. So you can add fills, which is quite cool. There are 6 drum sounds that can play from this keyboard. So let's play the Bossa Nova now and see what that sounds like. Let's add a fill. Let's go to the rumba. And now let's have a listen to the samba. We have a tempo control, which is just a slider that goes from slow to fast. And we have a volume for the rhythm control, which is quite useful because it will cut it completely, but it is stepped. Now I'm going to introduce some reverb from the Mercury 7, and I think you'll find that this really does add a nice bit of depth that makes these drum sounds more, I wouldn't say more realistic, but certainly more usable. To move from preset patterns to actually using the programming your own patterns, we need to change the multi-menu to the drum programmer section. So let's have a look at that now. So we take the dial here and we go past all the instrument stuff until it says custom drummer. We would turn this on and you will see that it gives us either the preset pattern. Now I'm going to go to custom, and this is one I've already programmed. To program drums, it's really bizarre. You would have to choose a pattern. So let's choose, say, the swing. If we press program, straight away it will shift to custom and you will hear whatever was there before, but it doesn't come with a blank one. You have to press the cancel. Then use your metronome here, not audibly, to program the stuff in. There is quantization of a saw, and each drum loop can be of 2 bars. So that's your hi-hat sound. That's your open hat. So let's now cancel that. Let's hear the snare. Let's hear the bass drum. So let's hear the low conga. It sounds quite high. And now we'll hear the bongos. Yeah, they have a charm, shall we say. But I think once you actually start to layer the stuff up and then put it through effects, you can get some pretty interesting sounds. tremolo. That sample rate, once you start to bring it down, it's great. Let's change some of the reverb. So again, still using the same pattern. Now what we have on the Ottobit Junior is a stutter, which is quite cool, where it can kind of mess things up in a good way. So I've just changed the pattern. So there you go, there's a bit of a brief introduction to the drum sounds on the MK-100. They are quite different, I think, to, say, some of the PSR or the PSS range of home keyboards that Yamaha introduced afterwards, and they certainly sound different to, say, some of the drum sounds on the Casio SK5. So there you go, that was today's episode. Thank you for watching. If you've found this at all useful or interesting, please subscribe or press that like, or both even. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Mad Gear. Take care.